This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library
You can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price that you can get Truefire All Access for. So it actually wasn't that long ago that I hadn't really ever owned a Les Paul, certainly not a Gibson. So I had a Tokai for a short while, which I sold, I think, when I moved house for the first time, buying a new house, something like that. It was around the time when I needed to find money for something. And then myself and my good buddy David Beevy, we went on a Les Paul hunt, and we both ended up with Les Pauls from 2002, Les Paul standards. And I kind of went through a thing and a bit of a phase with the Les Paul, trying to sort of turn myself from, I guess at the time, definitely a Strat player, and seeing if a Les Paul actually fit into my kind of lifestyle, my workflow at all. And so I kind of wanted to reflect on some of that. This is a K-Line KL59 that Chris kind of sent over. It happened at an interesting time again, where I was having to get a mortgage, and he'd asked, you know, would I like to buy one at a discount? I kind of said, look, this is not really the right time. And then later on, he kind of just offered me a guitar straight up, so I couldn't turn him down for that, and that's obviously incredibly generous of him. I've done a lot of videos with K-Line guitars in general, so yeah, you know that I love these guitars anyway.
Now this is a particularly lightweight guitar for a Les Paul, probably one of the lightest I've played. Other notable Les Pauls that I've really enjoyed have been my buddy Jake's Murphy Lab, which he got from Peach Guitars. But I would say, so if you on a gig, so I've gigged this a couple of times, quite a few times actually. Anytime I gig with Jake, and we've got tail end of the second set is a bit more rocky, and we also go down half a step to play like Boys Are Back in Town and stuff, and it really does feel appropriate playing this on Boys Are Back in Town. I've done it a couple of times like on a Tele, and it just doesn't really feel right. So I think there are certain pieces of music which really suit a Les Paul quite well, and we're kind of, I think that's generally what we think of like a Les Paul. But certainly for me, it's like, well, if I was in a Guns N' Roses kind of type band, or in a band that did a lot of sort of classic rock type stuff, then of course a Les Paul would make sense. But I think there's actually a bit more to it than that as well. What I would say is that the last time that I gigged this and I jumped to it from my Strat, I was kind of like, whoa, that neck feels huge. So this is a 59 style neck. There are two basic Les Paul neck shapes, right? Well, there are many more than that, but like the two main ones on the standards, you get like a 60s slim or a 50s, which is like the fatter one. This is definitely fatter, which I guess is going to be better for sort of handheld stuff, maybe. Other things going on with a Les Paul that maybe don't seem that obvious until you played one, like this is much more like a Tele than a Strat in terms of ergonomics. Like it does kind of sit and feel somewhat slabbish, right? Other things going on, we have, you know, a slightly shorter scale length, so things like bending and stretchy stuff are actually like a little bit easier. And so for some things like some legato, I think suits it really well. Now, what I found worked best for me, as someone who is very much more comfortable on a Strat or a Tele, was that you had to essentially, I think David Barber and Keith Williams from 5 Watt World have talked about this a bit as well, to get used to a Les Paul, you kind of have to play it almost exclusively for a while, and that's the bit that I've never really been able to do. I think I played just the Les Paul until Elodie was born. There was like a 2-3 week period where I played just the Les Paul. But I'd be lying if I said I felt 100% comfortable playing a Les Paul. So it's something I'm going to do again, because I do think there are some things that actually work really well with a Les Paul live. And plus, like the Robin Ford thing with the ES335 or Les Paul, sticking with this bridge pickup is actually a really expressive, kind of like a Tele, kind of expressive Tele. Like not quite the same as like a Strat where you've got like a little bit overly spiky. Like a Les Paul or a Tele bridged in a lot of ways for me is kind of like that thicker, like a, I don't know, like a brighter voice that doesn't get too, like it has that chirp if you need it. again, like I say, I'd be lying if I said I felt 100% comfortable on a Les Paul, but it's something that I think is different enough from most of my other guitars that there should be one in the stable. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and this is a K-Line KL59. I rate it a lot higher than most Gibson standards that I played. I've had a couple of experiences with a Gibson custom shop. My buddy Jake's Murphy Lab, I'd say, is absolutely the best Les Paul I've played. But this is a great guitar too. Let me know your Les Paul stories in the comments if you've got one. And do you have the same thing where, like, you find yourself being a Les Paul guy who can't get on with a Strat, or vice versa? I think that's definitely quite a common thing.